let's go ahead and get started. Like I
All right.
said before, it's just a conversation. I don't have an agenda per se. There's nothing that I want to especially cover. I do have a sheet here that I go over with like everybody, but it's very, very high level.
All right. Sounds good.
Stuff like what I've got here is like, who are you? How did we meet? Tell us about your early years, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um,
Perfect.
we'll just start there. So I will start by saying who you are, but if you don't mind, just telling us who you are, what you do, how you got here, that kind of a thing.
All right.
Okay? All right, cool. So I am happy to announce today that I've got Paul Rink on the podcast on Two Guys Talkin. I met Paul a few weeks ago at the Michael Zuber event, One Rental at a Time, in Las Vegas, and met a lot of cool people there. And as you know, our tagline is, very interesting people. So I got to talking to him. I was with Bo, and we hit it off, and he's very interesting. So I thought I'd bring him on the show, and he, it took some maneuvering to get our schedules aligned and whatnot. But he's here. I'm here. We're here to talk, and take it away, Paul.
Bill, thanks for having me on. It was great to meet you. And yeah, you mentioned a little bit challenging getting our schedules to work out. You're on the West Coast. I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, we're here, and guess you just want me to tell everybody a little bit about myself.
Yeah. So you have an interesting background, and it's got a lot of stuff to it. So and I think we'll get to that. And
Okay.
kind of one of the things that we talked about was kind of our mutual challenges with focus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I definitely have
what
some challenges focusing.
and that's totally fine. I have found that most entrepreneurs do have that problem, and I've done a little bit of research on it. And it's interesting that a lot of us have ADHD, a lot of us have anxiety, lack of focus. But the flip side to that, which is really weird, we only have lack of focus when we're not really into something, right? Like if you were in school and you were taking a class or hearing about a subject you didn't really care about, you were probably daydreaming, looking out the window, if they had windows, you know, not very interested, and your teachers noticed and they told your parents, and then you got in trouble. But on things that you really cared about, like maybe it was, my thing when I was in high school, this tells you how old I am, because it was the first round of this fad, was a Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
I played with that damn thing for hours. And I got to the point where, and I'm not kidding, I'm not lying, I'm not making this up, I could consistently solve that puzzle in less than 30 seconds.
Wow. Okay.
Without fail. I never got hung up and whoa, I've never seen that before. Because I'd seen it all. It's a finite block. I mean, there's only a certain amount of, combinations you're going to see. So, but we can focus intensely on the things that we're passionate about. I think the bigger challenge is figuring out what we're passionate about and then sticking to it, persevering. Because I get passionate about something and then I lose my passion and I move to something else. What about you?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely the case for me. When I find something new, I am digging deep into it. Like it's 40 plus hours a week on top of everything else I have going on that I am learning that inside and out. And sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. My problem is I pick up more things and do that over and over again and continue to keep the other thing that I'm not so passionate about anymore. And then you have, too many things going on.
Yeah. And then you feel bad about letting the other things slide, and you feel bad about, yourself, like I can't finish anything. And that causes more anxiety.
Yeah.
It's kind of a stupid, vicious cycle. But here we are, and we haven't like gone crazy yet, so it's all right. So I was looking at a bunch of your different sites. You know, you're on
Kind of.
LinkedIn, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on, you name it, right? I think you're even on Threads, and you like put up two threads there that said, "Well, what the hell good is this?"
Right.
Essentially, and I felt the same way. It's like
Yeah.
this feels a lot like Twitter,
Yeah.
um, and they're all the same, man. um, but as I was looking, I was seeing different things you had done. So let's just touch on them. I have a whole page of notes here that,
Okay.
um, and I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna kind of like pick a few of them and let's talk about them. So
All right.
I think your big thing and the reason you were at the Zuber event was your real estate investing business. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I would say out of anything I've done that has stuck the longest and is continuing to stick, um, I started investing in real estate. Well, I shouldn't say I started looking into investing in real estate when I was 27. So this was 2017-ish, somewhere around there. Um, I thought I was going to get into flipping, all the shiny object syndrome and going to the flipping conferences, wasting a bunch of money on seminars, and never went down that route. Um, the only thing that really led me to that was I was trying to get into a W-2 union job, and 88 days in, I got let go. So I was out of work. And that's what led me to this whole investing world, because I just started Googling how to make money. And,
Yeah,
well, when you Google that, a lot of things pop up. So,
yeah, true.
yeah.
um,
Um, yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you were going for a union job. What kind of a job was it?
So it was actually in machining. It was in CNC machining.
Okay.
Before I went out on my own, I've been doing CNC machining and CNC programming for the better part of 12 years. So,
Okay.
um, and I still enjoy that field. I just knew that holding on to a W-2 job was not going to let me get to where I need to go with everything that I'm doing. So,
Right. Right. So before that, even maybe before the 12 years of the CNC stuff was, um, at some point you were in the army, right?
yeah, I was in the Army National Guard. Did 6 years in the Guard and 2 years inactive. So there was a lot of great things about the military that I just decided, though, when I had the option to reenlist, I didn't go with that. I
Yeah.
figured it wasn't for me. If I was going to reenlist, I was going the distance to retire in the military, and I made the hard choice to get out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What do you think um what you did in the military prepared you at all for what you're doing today?
yeah, 100%. I was a mess when I was younger and doing a lot of stupid things, and the military definitely gave me a lot of structure. At the
Okay.
same time, I also learned a lot of things not to do in business, and before I even knew I was trying to get into business, just because of the whole, most people heard it, whether they're in the military or not, hurry up and wait. Well, that is the military. They make you hurry up to get somewhere, and then you're waiting around to do something.
Yeah.
So that was not something I wanted to do, and I saw a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted funds. Um, so those were those kind of things that I saw before even knowing that I was going to be in business, running my own businesses. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so you didn't do house flipping. What did you do? What was kind of your first step into like I bought a thing, a real estate thing?
So I did have when the year I got out of the military was 2012, and I bought my first property. That was just my primary residence. My first investment was in 2019, and that was I bought two houses on one lot, and the primary goal of this was to fix them up and rent them out. They were already rented, but I bought them from a slumlord. They were a horrible condition, so bad, and I was not ready for that for my first investment. Um,
No.
but that was my beginning of investing. I actually, because of buying that first primary in 2012, just knowing that I wanted to get on the property ladder, not even thinking about investing, just I built up enough equity to be able to borrow money against my house I took out a equity line of credit and bought those first 2 houses with that home equity line of credit. So that's how
Oh,
I
that's
got kicked
awesome.
off into investing.
Okay. And what it seems like. So I'm not a real estate investor unless you count my house, but I don't. But I have been around the industry for 10, 15 years now, and it seems like and this goes for every business, every industry, whatever. There are people who like study it and never do anything. There are people who like jump in and go, oh crap, maybe I'm in over my head, and then they kind of stop. And then there are people who like they'll buy a property, and then a year or two later they do another one, and they do another one, and they do another one until they've got 10, 20, 30, and it's like I don't know if I don't know if everybody catches the bug, but it seems like a lot of people in real estate catch that bug because it works. I mean, for the
Yeah.
most part. Unless you have a terrible calamity like we had in 2008, 2009, which may have been a once in a lifetime thing, maybe not. I don't know. Um, a lot of people lost everything, but since then it's been all uphill. I mean, everything's been going up, and you know, talk a little bit about that as far as like where do you see the real estate market going? Have we returned to so there's my educational background is actually in economics. Um, so I know a little bit about the history of real estate and in the US especially, where it used to be before 2008, real estate was regional, right? It was like things could be going up in Boston, but they could be going down in, Albuquerque. And it was kind of like all over the place, and it had more to do with the regional or local economics and the macro picture. Um, 2008 changed all that, and it was like everywhere. Like nothing didn't go down, and nothing went up for a few years. And I remember I bought my house in 2004, and in 2007 it was worth like almost double what I paid for it, and in 2009 it was worth half of what I paid for it. And then, 5, 10 years later, it was worth double or triple again. So where do you think, and I don't want this to be necessarily a real estate like outlook, but where do you think this is going? Because I think that the important thing, a lot of people will watch this and go, well, Paul did it. How did he do it? How can I do that? Is it going to be the same? So what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it will be the same as when I started investing. I um luckily was into a upwards market all the way from my first properties that I actually bought as investments until now in 2024. So 5 years. Um, I will say that I don't think that there's any signs of that crash coming, especially nationwide. I don't see how it can, because of what happened during COVID and the government artificially keeping interest rates low, and the Fed keeping interest rates low. Therefore, all these people have these low interest rate mortgages, 2, 3, 4%. There's still a whole lot of people that want to buy houses, and there is not enough supply for those people to buy houses. So it doesn't matter really how high interest rates go up. As long as there's not the supply increase that people are looking for, you're not going to have houses dropping. That'd be the first thing. Um, so at this point, I think you do need to get a little creative, in my opinion. Maybe not from the first property, but in order to really build a very solid cash flowing portfolio today, I think a lot of the creative strategies are the route that people eventually need to get to.
And talk a little bit about those. What are
All
those
right.
for people who don't know what you're talking
So I
about?
will say this is outside of your first property. I truly believe that somebody should get into real estate traditionally. Buying their first property as an owner occupied property. There's various ways to go about that. Like this is creative inside the traditional sense. Buying a 2 to 4 unit property. If you didn't know, buying a 2 to 4 unit property is you can get a residential mortgage on it. And in today's market, you can get a residential mortgage owner occupied in a 2 to 4 unit for only 5% down with a conventional mortgage. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are buying up these mortgages now. So now mortgage companies are offering that product. I think in today's market, that's the best way to get into real estate if you're looking to invest. So that's the start.
Yeah.
And then that also teaches you how to be a landlord while you're living in the property. So if you put good tenants next to you, well, you're not going to have as many problems. But if you put bad tenants next to you, now you're sharing walls with problems. Either way, you're learning how to be a landlord right around your area. So you're not driving to other states. You're not driving even across the city. It's all right there. So I think that's the best way to get into real estate. And this may be, especially in today's market, and this may be not a popular opinion, but I think that managing your own properties first is actually a good move. You're going to screw up a lot, but you're also going to understand what you need to look for when hiring a property manager, whether that's in your backyard or in another state. So how do you know you can look at every YouTube video and article about property management, but until you really know what you need to look for, that would be that first step.
Yeah.
And we can touch on creative stuff if you want me to jump into that too.
Yeah,
Up
let's
to
do
you.
that. Let's throw a couple creative things in there, because I think what's really kind of alluring on that point you made about buying a 2 to 4 unit property. Let's say you bought a 4 unit property and you lived in one. Seems like that's a really good way to get your own mortgage paid for.
Sure is. I mean, even in high cost of living areas, maybe you're out of pocket a little bit of money, but it's going to be a lot cheaper than paying a full mortgage, especially like where you live.
Oh yeah,
And on top of that, now you have an asset that's pretty valuable that your tenants are helping you pay off.
right, right. Seems
So,
like I mean, besides the fact that I don't particularly want to get up in the middle of the night and deal with somebody's plumbing, um, it seems like a win-win all the way around.
so you want to know how many calls I've had in 5 years and now 11 doors? Zero.
Yeah,
Yeah, like of those kind of calls. Never got woken up in the middle of the night for a call. I've had some emergencies, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't been like I woke up out of bed and had to go fix a toilet that everybody talks
yeah,
about. Not one.
yeah.
They're
Wow.
few and far between, and some landlords will never deal with them, and some you'll deal with a bunch of problems in like 1 or 2 months, which makes you want to sell all your properties. But then you remember, the 18th month stretch where all you were doing was collecting rent and had no issues at all. So,
Yeah, yeah. You gotta take the good with the bad.
yeah,
It seems like the good is a lot more frequent than the bad.
I
Getting those
personally
checks
think
is
so.
probably pretty good.
Yeah, lately I have been getting into a lot more creative strategies to purchase real estate. And in today's market, even though you have to be very careful about this, and we're not going to go deep diving into these strategies, but strategies like subject to or assuming a mortgage, where somebody that already has a low interest rate on their property, but they only bought it 3 or 4 years ago. They don't have a lot of equity in the property because they bought it at a high point. And now, from about 3 years ago to now, the property values are about level, if not just a little bit down. Some are just a little bit up. Either way, those people don't have enough equity in their house to sell their house without taking money out of their own pocket. So you can come in and pay market value and acquire an interest rate of 3 or 4% that somebody else is holding this mortgage, instead of buying that on market or buying that and taking over or putting a new mortgage on the house at what, 6.5, 7.5% right now. So
Hmm.
that drastically lowers your mortgage payment. Now that's
I
just
think,
quickly, but yeah,
yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how much the interest rate um, affects your payment.
yeah, a lot.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Like the first, what, 10, 20 years, you're paying all interest for the most part.
Majority, yeah. Like I have loans now that I've not made a simple any extra principal payments on, and even when they're 3-4% mortgages, like I'm still paying a lot of mortgage. I'm nowhere near paying more. I mean, a lot of interest. Nowhere near paying more principal than interest. So you're
Yeah.
looking at more than half the life of your loan usually before you're getting past that 50% point. So
Yeah, and that's kind of the perversity of the market is it seems what happened was mortgage rates shot up very, very fast because the Fed raised rates like like never before. And I'm old enough to remember when rates were a lot higher. They just were kind of like they started at 7 and went up to 15 or 16. Um, we started at like 2 and went up to 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. Um, that's a big, big jump, big percentage jump. But the perversity of it all is as interest rates went up, I thought, now you made a really good point, and that I wasn't really factoring into it. Supply is still pretty low for housing. But you would think that as interest rates go up, property values would go down because it became more expensive to hold a mortgage. If you're trying to sell a house and you don't have an assumable mortgage, you can't share that 2 or 3 or 4% rate with your buyer, you're not moving, you know? Um, but that didn't happen. Prices didn't go down that much, but the cost of your mortgage went up a lot. So housing affordability actually became a lot less during this period. And it will be interesting to see how that plays out when interest rates drop, which they will. And we've been in a zero rate environment, a zero Fed funds rate environment for a long, long time. It'll be interesting to see if we go back to that. I kind of think we will. And if we do, what does that do to housing affordability? What does that do to house prices? What does that do for supply and demand? It's interesting. So anyway.
Yeah, I honestly think that that's a mix of if rates go down like that, with all the money that's been dumped into the economy the past 3-4 years, interest rates dropping now, I think would be a horrible thing for the market. As much as people want that, the price of housing will shoot up right now like crazy if interest rates drop, say 3% this year, even. In my
Oh,
opinion, that's what I would see. Because people can
yeah,
afford more house now. If they were able to still qualify for a mortgage now, if rates drop 3%, they could qualify for a lot more house.
right,
And
right, for
that's why
sure.
the median house is what's flying off the market still. That median level house in any market or lower, that's the house. Those are the houses that are still flying off the market that can go FHA or conventional. The ones that aren't flying off the market are your luxury houses or your extreme fixers. And even those extreme
Yeah,
fixers are still being scooped up at the right price. So,
yeah. Give us one more creative strategy, and then we'll move on.
all right. Well, I'll do one that I just did at the end of last year. I did what's called a seller carryback. Um, for those who don't know, I brought a DSCR lender into first position on this note. The seller sold me the property, and now he actually is seller financing a portion of that to me in second position. So he turned into my second position bank. I brought in a lender, and for first position with not traditional financing, DSCR financing, which is lent to you on how much income that property can pull in. There's ratios involved, and I had to do some creative things in order to make it work. I have a whole entire YouTube video on that. But essentially, he came into the second position, financed my whole down payment, my closing costs, my rehab, and I worked in a little extra money for me for in case the project went over budget and padding my pocket a little bit. And the quick numbers: I bought a property for $450,000 in Charlotte, North Carolina. I took out 80% loan in first position, and he financed all that in the second half, or in the second position. For a 5% or 5-year balloon, 0% interest, amortized over 30 years. So I have a really low payment.
Oh,
And you're probably wondering why the heck he would do something like this, right?
that's my question. Yeah,
So sellers, you have to find the right seller. They are not out there all over the place. But this seller was an investor. He's a lot older now. He's in his late 80s, early 90s. Property kind of went downhill. It was empty. He had a lot of stuff to fix on it. There's mold issues. I needed a new furnace, new AC, a lot of just odds and ends stuff around the whole house. He couldn't handle doing that anymore. So he also bought this property for $94,000 30 years ago. So there's going to be a pretty big capital gains hit when he goes to sell that property at
yeah,
$450,000. One thing, I gave him a higher price than anybody else could give him. because he gave me my terms that I needed to make this deal cash flow. The other thing is, well, because of that, he's pushing a lot of those taxes down the road, so that because he doesn't need all that money up front. He's well off. He's just trying to offload his properties because he realizes he's later in life and it's stuff that he can't take care of anymore.
Okay.
And another thing is, well, we found this out. He knew this, but we found this out part of the way through the process. He actually had $180,000 of judgments against him, this person. So those did have to be cleared up before he could sell this property. Those are also dollars that he's paying capital gains on. He has to pay those judgments off, but he also pays capital gains on that because that's still profit. So by not taking that huge chunk of money up front, he still was able to pay off that judgment, take a little bit of money, and now he's not only making more on the sale of the property because he's willing to give me my terms so that he sold it for more, he's actually making more money because he's not paying all those capital gains up front right when he sells it, and he's pushing those down the road.
And so how does that work? Does he get paid? Like, do you just pay him a mortgage
So we have
in
a
effect?
servicing company set up where it just automatically gets drawn out of my bank account every month and he gets paid. So a
Hmm.
servicing company takes care of that. And then I still pay my first position mortgage, my DSCR lender. And all that's automated. I automate as much of my life as possible because if not, there's no way I could do what I do.
Cool. Cool.
And who knows? Now I have to deal with that 5 years down the road, really about 4 years down the road, have to think about how I'm getting out of this mortgage too. So I have very many different exit strategies to get out of this 5-year balloon. I don't know how
Okay.
much you wanted me to talk about that, but
No, it's interesting. That's cool. I do like. Let's go down that tangent of automation.
okay.
So tell me some other things that you do, because I'm a systems guy. I like automating as much as I can. What do you do? Like, and you can apply it to any facet of your life or your business. What do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, I need to get a lot better at it with my social media, I'll tell you that much. But I do schedule a lot of things on my social media platforms so that they're just popping up. I like to schedule like a month of shorts at a time or at least a week. Like I'll take a podcast that I did in long form and make a bunch of shorts out of it and schedule those out for the week or the week and a half. So that's one
Okay.
thing. Just do it in bulk so that I can do it all at one time, just focus there instead of making one short and posting it. Also, every one of my bills in my life that I can automate, I'm making them automated. I know how my money is flowing into my accounts automatically from, rent and other businesses, and I know how much I have flowing out of my accounts every month. Therefore, as long as I keep those flowing properly, I can automate all that and not have to worry about, you know, overdrafting or having money run out of a bank account. Now, I still do have to keep an eye on my bank accounts to make sure rent got paid, this and that. But
Mhm.
automating every one of my bills, all my credit cards, everything is the most efficient thing in my business, as well as really those are the main things I'm automating right now. So
Do you use any like specific apps or tools for that
I actually don't. When I have a new bill I come in, I set up the automated bill pay and like for my
with your
utilities from my
bank?
yeah for my utilities for my house in instant like every year I'll check out what I'm paying and that's automated. But sometimes I can find a cheaper rate through a third party for utilities. So I check on that
Oh,
like
wow.
once a year too, and then I'd have to set a new auto pay for whoever I go with. But realistically, just the auto pay on all of my bills and all my expenses saves so much time.
Yeah, probably gives you peace of mind too. 'Cause
It definitely does.
it's like I always get anxious when I have to like write checks or I don't write checks anymore, but pay bills. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, I will say like with the servicing company that I'm using, for some reason, the first payment had to be in a check mailed to them. And I'm like, when the heck can you guys get with the times? Like, I have to mail you a
Yeah,
check. I can't even set up an online account until I mail you a check. Like,
God, there are still companies, believe it or not, who like your first initial contact with them has to be a fax. Oh my God, you're
yeah,
killing me. Who has a fax?
yeah.
All
But I
right,
mean,
cool.
yeah,
Uh, so you mentioned social media.
yes.
Tell us about you're involved in a lot of things, and we've talked about um your real estate. We haven't talked much about what you're doing on like YouTube in terms of, let's just say, video. what are you doing in terms of video? Why are you doing it? And then we'll talk about some other. I hate the term, but side hustles. You're into a lot of different things,
Yeah.
so you can take it wherever you want.
All right. So social media. Haven't got into it yet, but I do have an axe throwing business. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I have my
Yeah,
axe throwing YouTube channel. It's mainly a shorts channel. And I have constant videos coming out on that so that I'm advertising my business. Um, that is there for advertising, and it's the main reason I have that channel. But I like to do little shorts so that people constantly are seeing that and it's put in their, in front of their face every single day, whether that's customers around me or some people from all over the world. And that also led to me getting like free axes and other throwing weapons sent to me because companies wanted me to review their items because I have
sure.
a viewer base, and I'll review them and I
Yep.
send them out for free, which gets me more subscribers, which will hopefully get me monetized. Um, but that monetization is not the point of that channel at all. It's specifically for promotion. And all my social media is used for promotion in some way, shape, or form. My real estate channel, which is really small, but I'm branched off my real estate from my other channel. That is my portfolio. My main reason for that channel is case studies on every project that I put under contract, and I actually am going to start putting some of my lending on there as well. But it's so that when I go to borrow money or when I go to have partnerships and deals, and people ask me what I've done, I can send them to my channel and it talks the whole entire deal out. It
Mm,
also gets people to almost understand and know you before ever talking to you in person
yep.
because they're watching your video. But also, in order to get more people to watch that channel, I'm bringing on a guest every week. So I'm doing one podcast a week,
Mm,
and it's with someone in the real estate profession. My first week of the month is going to be focused on private lending. My second week of the month is focused on a business professional in real estate that can help the new investor. And my third and fourth, I bring success stories and new investors that have house hacked successfully in some way, shape, or form because there's so many different ways to house hack. So it's building out my channel because I've also house hacked 3 times. So a lot of my success became because of house hacking.
awesome. Awesome.
And one more channel I have, my credit card channel, which is actually monetized. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about that real quick. So why'd you start that, and how's that going?
I still love credit card hacking. I've traveled for years without paying for any of my major travel expenses just because of credit
Yeah,
card rewards,
that's
referrals,
awesome.
and bonuses. And I travel a lot. So that was a substantial amount of money I was making off of just credit card bonuses. I mean, I have a stack of over 2 dozen cards. I barely ever use any of them anymore. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I have over 2 dozen credit cards. But it's netted me. I couldn't even tell you how much at this point of bonuses. Um,
Wow.
and I shared with each card I was doing, and I haven't even shared every card, but I shared a lot of the reasons for credit card hacking and different cards and bonuses. And it just so happened that that channel turned into a monetized channel. But I was doing everything on that channel. I was doing real estate, credit cards, phone money, like different apps and stuff, which I still do here and there on that channel. But I had to branch off my real estate. So that channel I make videos a lot less on that channel, even though it's still making me money. I'm just not, we talked about that to start the episode off. I am not passionate about that as much as I used to be. So it's hard to
Mm,
make videos. And you could even see it in my videos now that they're like pushed. Like I had to try to make them. So
a little forced.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you still travel on those bonuses and stuff?
Not fully on the bonuses because I don't open cards as much as I used to. But
Okay.
like where you met me, going to Vegas, I went to 2 other states after that. Still 60% of that travel between my rental cars, my hotels, and my airfare were paid off of credit card bonuses.
That's awesome.
And I still
That's
have
awesome.
a lot of bonuses that are racked up that I could have used to make that trip completely free. But I didn't do that because of a card I'm opening next year. And I had a 4-year plan for credit cards because those points are going to be worth 50% more when I open this card and transfer them over.
Oh,
So I
okay.
have about
Okay.
$3,000 in points right now that's going to turn into $4,500 points.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Um I was going to go somewhere with that, and I kind of lost my thought. Oh, you said you went to 2 other states.
Yeah.
So you're also a runner. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I run pretty competitively. I'm not as in I'm not as into training as I used to be, but I ran Boston Marathon last year. Um, I have a goal of running.
You say it so ho hum, and for anybody who's never run a marathon, including me, that sounds like a hell of a accomplishment. So
Yeah,
pat yourself on the back a little bit. That's pretty
Boston is one
awesome.
you have to qualify for, so it was like my victory race.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I do have a goal of running a race that's chip timed in every single state. So after we met in Vegas, I drove to well, actually, I had my friend drive me that met me in Vegas so that I could work on my road trip. Um, but she drove. We drove to to Phoenix next. I met up with some people in real estate. Met up with a friend that lived there. Did some hiking. Ran a race there. So that was state number 23. Then shot over to.
What kind of a race was that? Was that a marathon?
So that was just a 5K,
Okay.
and I did win it, by the way.
Oh wow! Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
awesome.
So
That's awesome.
and then shot over to New Mexico for a little bit and ran a race in New Mexico as well, and that was a 10K. So that's 6.2 miles.
Okay.
And which is kind of funny. Because I talk about everything I do to people. I talked to the guy that won the race after, and actually now I'm trying to help him find a deal for him and his family in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I've linked up with a few wholesalers, and we're trying to find him a subject to deal. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. See, everybody you meet, I mean, and I don't think you should look at it this way necessarily, although you could. But everybody you meet brings value, and you can
yeah,
bring value to them, and that's pretty awesome. You know, you're not in it to like suck money out of people, but you saw, you guys got to talking, and you were like talking like real human beings, and you found out about him, he found out about you, and you had some mutual like you could help each other, and
yeah.
that's pretty awesome. That's awesome.
Like this guy's breaking world records. Like he's 45 and he's looking to break world records in running. He's a
Wow.
Kenyan. Um, but yeah, he's crushing it. He's like
Oh,
one of
I saw that picture. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that was in New Mexico,
yeah,
right?
that was New Mexico. He's like a top runner in the world, and he's like, hey, me and my wife are trying to find a house, and I don't know what to do in this market. And I'm like, well, there's some options if you're willing to learn. And I started sending him some training videos to help understand these processes, and he's like, we're all on board if we can pull this off. So
That's great.
yeah,
That's great. Um, just a little side note. God, it was probably 10 or 15 years ago now. Somebody I used to work with way back. I was in a retail sporting goods chain. I was a manager, and she was one of our salespeople. And she went off to do things, and I went off to do other things. And she got a job back east, but she met up with these who decided that they were going to run. I don't remember what it was, but it was. I think they basically ran across North Carolina,
okay,
and they did it in I don't know, a number of days, but they did a marathon a day for like, I don't know, a month. It was crazy. I don't know how people do that. I would be a wreck. My feet would just be chewed up.
yeah, no, that's too much. I don't even think I could pull that off. That's a lot of
But
running.
you hear about these guys who do like ultra marathons,
Yeah,
100 miles, and then they do it the next day, and it's like you hear that about these people who climb mountains, and they climbed the 7 tallest peaks last year, and it's like people are fucking amazing. That's all I have to say.
yeah,
I've dabbled in a lot of that stuff. Like I've been to the top pretty tall mountains,
okay,
not Everest or anything like that, but
yeah.
I've done it. Um, it's hard, but it's doable. But to do like all of them, that's dedication, man.
Yeah, and you have to sacrifice so much to do these things, and
uh,
it's training. It's not like you just go do it. You have to prepare yourself to go do it. So,
right, right. Yeah, you
yeah,
don't just get up one day and say, I'm going to run 26 marathons in 26 days or whatever the hell.
yeah,
I may be exaggerating. I don't, but I remember when she told me this, and she was like chronicling, I think it was on Facebook, chronicling each day. And it was like, oh my God, this is like the Tour de France. you know, you're cycling over 100 miles a day, which 100 miles a day on a bike, I think is not nearly as bad as 26 miles on your feet. But I could be wrong.
yeah.
Um,
I'm not a biker, so I really don't know. But
Either way,
yeah,
if you run 100 miles a day for like 20 days or 23 days, whatever they do in the Tour de France, that's pretty. Awesome.
Yeah.
But doing that with a marathon every day is just that just is crazier to me. But it's awesome. So congratulations on your win. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
And so you're going to try to get to all 50 states?
Yeah, next month I'm knocking 2 more states out. So
And what will that get you up to?
that'll get me up to 26. I
Okay, so
started this
you're
in
halfway there.
2020. I only had 2 states done before I decided to do this in 2020. So
Wow. So what's your plan? When are you going to be done?
I don't have a set date on this. It's just as I can do it.
Okay.
My focus is on my business stuff right now. So if I find an opportunity to run in a state or something brings me to a state that I haven't done yet, then I'm going to find a race.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. What state do you most want to run in that you haven't run in yet?
I think it's Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking you were going to say Hawaii, but maybe you've already done that.
I haven't done Hawaii yet. I think Hawaii and Alaska are going to be tough ones to do. Those are going to be expensive trips. So
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
yeah,
Yeah. But they're going to be extreme too. It's like, would you rather run in the freezing cold or the humid hotness?
right. And we always try to find, like, me and whoever I go with always try to find like things to do on the trip too, like fun things. Like 3 of the states we went hang gliding, 2
Wow.
tandem, and then last year was our first solo hang glide that we learned how to hang glide by ourselves.
Nice.
So
Nice. Very
yeah,
cool. So see, this guy's into everything. So let's talk about the thing that really got me interested
okay,
when we were talking, and that is the axe throwing business. And there's a twist to it. So it's not just throwing axes, which is sounds pretty fun to me. Um, you gave it a twist,
yeah,
the mobile part.
it's mobile. It's on wheels. I built it on a trailer, and I haul it around to parties, corporate events, breweries, and I meet people because, well, if you can tell, I like talking to people. So that's the
Yeah.
easy part to me, and I'm active and athletic. So learning to throw axes was really easy. Learning to teach people to throw axes was really easy. I opened this business after throwing axes 2 times ever, and not even really knowing what axe throwing was before that. So there's that. I kind of jump into
Oh
things.
man. So so you threw axes twice. What even compelled you to do that? Was it like a party that you like you're the on the other side of it now, or
So at that time, it wasn't even. These were both on a brick and mortar facility, not even a mobile unit. I threw X's after the second time. I started like Googling and watching videos on how to throw X's better because some people were beating me, and I don't like to lose. So,
yeah, yeah, I can
um,
tell.
yeah. So I got competitive, and I'm like, and then it led me to these mobile units. I'm like, oh, people are putting these on wheels. Like, how is this possible? And then I'm like thinking all the things that most people would think about. You're throwing X's around alcohol, like insurance, and how these can be insured, and what it takes to put this on wheels and everything. So a lot of things crossed
So
my
you,
mind. So
so you figured it out,
yeah,
and you figured it out. What was your like? What was your plan to figure it out? Obviously, you wanted to do it, so you were going to do it.
yeah.
So how did you figure out how to do it?
Well, first off, I did it. The main reason I even started was because I told you I travel a lot, and my rule used to be I couldn't travel unless I had credit card points for my hotels, my rental cars, and my flights. The 3 biggest parts of traveling. Anything else when I was on the trip, that allowed me to spend money and feel okay spending money because I was got the big parts covered. I started breaking that rule. So I was looking for something to keep me occupied on that time. And I decided what better thing to do than open a business that I have to do a lot of weekend events. So
Hmm.
that was
When did you start that?
I started this, it was, see, this is 2024. 2022, it was a beginning, August 1st, 2022 was my opening day.
Okay.
And I had in Ohio, up in Ohio in Cleveland area, I had about 3 months of good weather where I could still push through 3 good months of a season. So,
Okay.
I did pretty good in October. The first 2 months were pretty slow, and then my October I did very well. And I actually haven't had a month that good since. But
Wow.
that was
Wow.
my driver, and it's not like it's the first time I've done a business or started a business, whether that's been in real estate or some other small stuff. So I at least had I understood what I needed to do to start up a business. It was just
Hmm.
I've never done a service-based business, so it was there were some differences that I had to, figure out through trial and error.
So you have a YouTube channel for that too,
I do,
right?
yes.
Yeah. And that's, again, to reiterate what you said earlier, your YouTube channel is for promotion of that business.
Yes. Yeah.
And in that YouTube channel, do you show people how to throw axes?
Some of my videos, I have some training videos on throwing, and a lot of those are in like little shorts. I also have videos on like the different games people can play with throwing axes because there's so many different games. Safety
Okay.
rules, how to change out wood because I do target wood differently than some other people do. So I've had people all over the country calling me, asking where I get the wood from that I use and how I change it out and set up my targets. So
Okay.
somebody in Vegas when I was there like a year and a half before, like they're ordering wood from my guy that cuts my wood in Ohio because it's cheaper for him to cut it and ship it to them than they could find it for down there.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Awesome. So is that a business you want to continue to keep growing, and do you want to kind of like push it off so that you're more on the passive side and like have somebody else run it, or have you figured that out yet?
yeah, so this has been something we were bouncing around when we talked, and you and Bo put some ideas into my head. I mean, Bo was like, franchise it, or do a coaching program, and I'm like, I'm thinking about selling it, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we haven't even got to my other business yet, so that I'm taking it's taking up most of my time. I think I'm only scheduling out events for this 2 months in advance right now because I am going to start marketing this to sell it, um, seller financing as the whole business. So I have no debt on the business, and I understand how to do creative finance and real estate, and it's not going to be much different when you're selling a business as well. The structuring the deal is the same. I'm sure there's going to be some intricate parts that I have to figure out selling a business. Like, I don't know if I'm actually going to sell it in my LLC or if they're going to open another LLC, which is probably the smartest thing to do. But I can
Mhm.
sell my website. I can sell my trailer. I can sell my truck. I can sell all the stuff you need to throw. I can sell my social media platforms. All of that is stuff that took me a year and a half and a lot of time to build that is valuable to the right person. So I'm not going to sell it just to piece it off and part it out for nothing. I'm going to sell it to the person that understands what they're getting and what they want. So it might take all year to sell if I start marketing it now, but I'm okay with that. I'm taking less events than I did last year, and I'm being a little bit more choosy on what I decide to take in. So,
Okay. Okay. So, we're getting to the close to the top of the hour.
okay.
And I don't want to keep you too long, but you just said something about your main business that we haven't talked about. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Last year I started lending my money out using just private lending, going with my own money and putting it into real estate deals. I've borrowed and lent private money in the past, and now I'm in a mastermind that helps me make sure I'm doing everything right. I started getting to the point where I was getting more people sending me deals that were good deals that I wanted to lend on than I had funds for. So I'm actually connecting people together through partnerships. You're not actually lending, you're actually partnering with the person that's wanting to borrow the money. And we have various things that we do to get higher interest rates. A lot of gap lending, like 60 days to like 180 is our sweet spot. And various lenders require different rates of return. But I have a couple pieces of that program where I help, with the underwriting, and then I explain to them why the deals I think is good. They still are responsible for underwriting it themselves if they're bringing money to the table. And also, we do a coaching program that when you and I talked, I didn't really know what to call it yet, but me and my team decided to call it a coaching program because a lot of new private money lenders have never put their money out there before. And from when that deal actually gets funded until them getting their money back, well, a lot of people don't know what to do. So I'm walking people through step by step and keeping them on top of the game to make sure that they are doing their checks and doing everything they need to do to make sure that their money is working how it's supposed to, that you agreed on, and that it comes back on time. Or if it's late, then we know why it's late and we can communicate with that borrower. So that's,
Okay. So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Who, who's like your ideal avatar, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. So we have a couple focus groups that of people that are trying to borrow from. A lot of flippers. That's mostly the 6 month stuff that they need just money to come behind hard money, or money to come behind they're even maybe they could only fund part of it themselves, and they're willing to take on some private money for the just that little bit to get through the deal. Or we also look for people that are doing flips into rentals. We also look so they're buying it. It needs a lot of work. They need to get it fixed up and get a renter in it, and then they can get long-term lending on it. So they'll refinance into long-term lending. So that's another client that we do use. And now for more the 60 to 90-day stuff is a lot of like the really quick lipstick flips that like they can buy it in a couple weeks. It's already back on the market, just like paint, carpet, quick cosmetic stuff. Or we have clients that that buy portfolios of single family houses and duplexes and such, and they're putting like 15, 20 properties in one area into one portfolio, but they're buying it from different people. And they need to close on that quickly because they're getting it at such a good price. But they're putting this in this portfolio to get this bridge debt, and bridge debt doesn't happen in a week or two. It takes months to get their bridge debt. So they're using us as like the gap lending to get from buying these properties and to get to that bridge debt so that they can start fixing them up and getting longer term lending for the whole portfolio. So that's another clientele that we actually have a lot of loans come through.
Wow. And these private lenders, how are you finding them, or how does that work?
Some through my mastermind group I'm in, because a lot of people are trying to do the same thing as me. And I'm actually, this is a tidbit that I actually just started to do. And I'm actually have a list pool that I'm going to start calling on next week. I found out that you can actually go to your county recorder's office and ask them to pull a list of anybody in second lien position or third lien position on properties over the last, say, 12 months. Now you have to pay for these lists. It was $7 in my county for a list of everybody in my county that lent money in second or third lien position. And I'm going to start cold calling these people. I already know that they lent money to somebody because I do need more private money lenders. I'm getting more deals, and now I'm running out of private money lenders that.
I was guessing that was going to be the shortfall.
Yeah. So, but I need to start focusing on people outside of my mastermind because everybody in my mastermind is trying to do the same thing. So why am I trying to fight with everybody that's learning the same thing as me? Let me go somewhere where I know people are lending money. So I don't have that awkward beginnings. It's still going to be awkward for the cold call, but I know that they've lent money and they have lent money. So I feel like that's going to be a pretty successful strategy, and we'll find out.
Very interesting. So that's your focus, your main focus right now.
Yeah, after I left my W-2 job, that's where my time's going, and I need more of it still. So something's got to give still, and I do a lot, so I have to free up time somewhere.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would say if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and you think that you want to just keep starting to do more things and open businesses or buy businesses, whatever it is, I wouldn't do as many as I'm doing because I'm trying to backtrack now so that I can focus on a couple things. I've done okay, but a lot of my stuff is very disorganized, and now I have to get it more organized. So, like my CPA, he's going through hell right now trying to do my taxes.
Yeah.
And that costs me more money because I'm doing too many things. And some of these small things that I'm doing are really not worth it. I might be paying him more to figure this out than I've even made over the course of the year. So if I focus on, say, my real estate portfolio and private lending, and then I have a couple little side gigs that really don't take much of my time, but maybe a couple hours a month, that's what I'm trying to get to. I would say focus on something and get good at it before you decide to do something else. And I'm a hypocrite for saying that because I was not good at doing that.
So. Yeah. Famous last words. Yeah. I know. I used to be, even back when I was in my early 20s, I was like, I've always been the 80% guy. Like, I can get you to 80% of anything. And I go gung-ho, man, and I pour my heart and soul into it. But then when it's like good enough, I'm like, it's good enough. I'm moving on. So yeah, I had a reputation back then of never finishing anything, and probably has carried me through the last few years too.
But if you're a perfectionist too, though, that's you're never really going to make moves if you have to have everything perfect because it's never going to be perfect. It just won't.
Yeah, yeah. I was a perfectionist, and I've been cured of that, so that's a good thing. but yeah, it's hard to like focus on one thing and keep that passion, keep that fire burning, because it's always it's the flame is always burned out for me.
Yeah.
Um, so it's tough, but
Yeah.
you can do it, and it really comes with like experience. It comes with um perseverance, and it comes with kind of one of the things that I learned, and it took me like 10 years to learn this, is I learned what I don't like to do. I learned what I don't want to do. Because a lot of the things that you want to do or you think you want to do involves stuff that you really don't want to do.
Yeah.
And then that's what kills you. That's what kills the project.
Yeah.
And it's like if I have to, I don't know, I can't even throw out a hypothetical, but if I if there's a business out there or an activity, and part of that is doing something I really don't like to do, like you mentioned cold calling. I hate cold calling. I am a horrible cold caller. Just am. And it's all up here. There's no reason I couldn't be good. Um, but I hate it so much that I just won't do it. So if something requires that, I'm not going to succeed. And
Gotcha.
I'm okay with that now because I know what I don't like to do. One way to offset that is to hire or find a partner that does like to do that, whose skill is in that.
Hmm.
And I was talking to the heartfelt production guys the other day, and it's like it's a father and son team. They both bring something different to the table. They're not the same people. They don't have the same skill sets. They don't have the same personalities, and that's perfect. Because if you have two people, like two founders of a company, who can both do the same thing, it's like, why do I need that guy?
Yep. Exactly.
so, you either got to find somebody who does that stuff, or you got to just not do that stuff,
You got to
or you
outsource
can
it.
hire it out.
Yeah. Like I
Yeah,
started hiring out my bookkeeping because I hate bookkeeping. I can look at my reconciled
bookkeeping.
statement, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's not that kind of work is not like suited to people like us, like doing bookkeeping, accounting. Man, I took accounting in college, and I was like, this just sucks.
Yeah. It took me a
This
long
is
time to
horrible.
hire out, and I'm like, it is hard to let things go, but I'm like, I'm not good at this, and I don't want to do it. That's why I'm not good at this too.
Right,
Um, but
right.
like with my lending team, I have a integrator who is the person that puts all of our systems in place, and I throw out all these ideas of how I want it to work, and he makes it make sense, and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
organizes the deal flow and makes sure everything gets all the check boxes get checked off from each stage before we get to the next stage, which makes our
yeah,
deals flow better. So I looked for that person that was what I sucked at. I'm like, I'm not good at keeping this stuff organized. I need this guy. So
yeah. So you're probably more of the creative. You come up with the ideas, the big plans, the big strategies,
getting the
and then
leads.
say,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Bo's just like that. And I'm kind of like his integrator, which is weird too because I finish a lot of stuff for him, but I can't finish it for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, man, I'm glad we made the time. I'm glad you made the time. Because I know it was a challenge. I really enjoyed this. I hope a lot of people watch this and get something out of it because I think a lot of people are just like you and me, and you're not alone. Um, so it's been interesting. You've got an interesting life that you built for yourself. I think you're going to be super successful. Just keep at it, and the the more mature you become, the easier it will be for you to focus.
Yeah, I'm counting on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me
All
on,
right,
Bill.
Paul. Thank you.
Yep.
And I'll let you know when everything's out there in the wild, and I'll give you some files and stuff like that.
Sounds
So,
great. Thanks.
cool, man. Thanks.
Yep. See
Bye.
ya.
See you later.